Hello, everyone. This is the presentation for Group 7. So let's get it started. This is for employee appraisals. Just a funny little graphic here that you can check out for a second. Maybe you've experienced that. We're not sure. But today we hope to give a little bit more understanding on what an employee appraisal is, where they came from, maybe some ways to implement it, and then we will have a little activity that you can do on your own after you get done with this. So we'll get into it. So, what's an employee appraisal? An employee appraisal or performance review is defined as the process by which a manager or consultant examines and evaluates an employee's work behavior by comparing it with present standards or preset standards, documents the results of the comparison, uses the results to provide feedback to the employee to show where improvements are needed and why, um, and they're used to improve the company's productivity. Performance appraisals are employed to determine who needs what training, who will be promoted, demoted, retained, or fired. This is like the manager's way of gauging the talent that they have. Um, the theory behind employee appraisals is that by doing the appraisal interviews, you can compare employee productivity and or functions between interviews. This includes the employee's main job functions and how those functions have increased or decreased between the interviews. They provide motivation to the employee. Raises can come from this, bonuses, promotions. It allows the employee to understand where they are performance-wise within their job description and or department. It helps understand how many tasks are being completed within an allotted amount of time compared to others within the same department. Evaluate whether or not an employee requires extra training on certain job functions, establishes what the employee's personal and departmental goals are for the coming year. So, again, this is just a calibration really between the manager and the employee. We'll move on. There's a timeline of human resources and employee appraisals real quick. In the 1920s, Elton Mayo, who is pictured here, also known as the father of human resources, decided to study the correlation between the work environment and productivity because of the Great Depression. In the 1950s, the Performance Rating Act and Incentive Awards Act was established, which allowed government employees compensation for good work. In the 1960s, pay for performance was introduced. In the 1980s, MBO, management by objectives, was established. And in the 2000s, performance management became available online. And this is really cool to see the progress. And even nowadays, you can see the progress of employee satisfaction and things like that with flexible work schedules and flexible workspaces. Some people desire to work at home sometimes, and managers do that. And I think because the reason they do that is because of employee appraisal interviews. Perhaps they received feedback from employees. Um, Maybe they just decided to experiment because they were seeing these consistent negative results in their employee appraisal um, interviews. And so perhaps they saw those opportunities and improvements are made. So it's kind of cool to see the history there. We'll go to the next slide. And here's a video that we made on implementation and maybe how you could conduct a interview. So enjoy. All right, awesome. So hopefully you learned something from that video. It definitely helps seeing it firsthand. All right, so we'll move on into our sales activity portion of this. This is where you guys can kind of practice. So, for an introduction, just a short overview what you should do in this activity. So, first, build a rapport with the person you're interviewing. Ask them about themselves if you don't know them very well. Have them share some good news about their personal or professional life. Anything like that. Just help them feel comfortable in this environment. Number two, present the information from the previous review period. Perhaps you had a few action items that you gave them to work on, and maybe bring that up again and see where they are now with the progress. Three, ask employee for their thoughts. See how they're feeling about their success, their struggles, things like that, and then give them feedback. And this is crucial to help them assess where they're at and also help them progress and become the employee that you're hoping they can be. The next one, give assignments and set goals. That's pretty self explanatory. Number six, give timeline for upcoming review period. And then seven, close the meeting. So, with that in mind, try this out. Break up into pairs, and each of you kind of go over those steps that we just said. You'll have an opportunity to be the interviewer and the interviewee, and then you go through the employee appraisal. At the end of the appraisal, take a few moments to discuss what went well and what could have been improved upon. Give some feedback about the feedback that you get, and that should help in the real life situation. Then after you do that, switch roles. So ultimately, that's the end of our presentation. We hope you enjoyed it. Truly, the employee appraisal process is crucial, and as you have frequent one-on-ones and as you have open communication channels with those whom you work with, we definitely believe that that's where companies are successful, is when they can have good communication and the employees are being dealt with honestly. So thanks again for your time and have a good one.